This is the Jocko Underground Podcast, number 89, sitting here with Echo Charles. I was talking to one of my SEAL buddies a few weeks ago, and he was running through some quotes from me. But it was from years ago. We were in TradeEt together, and he was saying, he just like rattled off a few of them, and one of them was like, oh, that's a pretty good one. He said, I said, you can't sanity check things you are a part of. Mm. You can't sanity check things that you are a part of. This is an early manifestation of detachment, which I also talk about a lot back then. But it's similar to also what I've been talking about. I've been talking about this a bit on the Academy, the Extreme Ownership Academy. And I've talked about it at Gettysburg. Anyways, it's a topic that comes up a lot. I talk about when you're in a leadership position, you're in charge of a mob. And the mob is going to act like a mob, which means they have a mob mentality, which means they're going to have groupthink, which means they're all going to get in the same, the emotions are going to spread throughout that mob. And if they do something good and they start feeling good about it, they're all going to feel good about it, and they're going to become arrogant if they're not careful. The leader's the one that has to put the stop to that. It can also go in the other direction. If they do something bad, or they lose a game, or they do a bad mission, or you fail at a project, or you don't get the client that you wanted to get, and all of a sudden the negativity starts to spread and morale starts to decline, and it becomes a crisis of confidence. That's also something that the leader has to put a stop to. But the leader can only do that. They can only see the direction of the mob and understand if the direction of the mob is correct if they're not in the mob. The leader has to be outside the mob if they're going to see if something is right or wrong, or see if the mob is heading in the right or wrong direction. So this is critical to think about. That's why when you watch a mob on TV, it's like you understand that what they're doing is bad, but they don't. Right. They kind of do, but why are they doing it if they know it's bad? Yeah. Like if they know they could get arrested, if they know they could go to jail, if they know they're damaging property that has nothing to do with whatever they're pissed about. You know all those things, but when you're in that mob, you're still just picking up a chair and throwing it through a window. Like that's what they're doing. Yeah. Mob mentality. Mm. So you can't be in the mob. You have to be very careful as a leader of being in the mob. Now, this thing that I said clearly was about planning, because that's a common term that we used to use in the SEAL teams with sanity check. I think it's a common term anywhere, but we definitely would use. Yes, common term? Sanity check. Hey, give this thing a sanity check. Yeah. Well, like, am I crazy? Is this a crazy idea?
It made sense, but I don't know if I heard it.
Well, we used it a lot. Hey, Chief, can you just sanity check this for me? Or maybe the chief would come to the lieutenant. Hey, lieutenant, can you sanity check this for me? Like, it was a common term to say, but that part of the idea is that if you're part of what's happening, you can't sanity check it. Mm. You can't. You're not capable of doing it. It's not possible, unless you're really good at detachment. Then it becomes a little bit possible. But here's the takeaways from this. Number one, when you're in a leadership position, if you can avoid it, don't be a part of the granular planning. Don't get into it. Because once you're into it, you can't see a bunch of it. You're part of the mob now. Then you can't see what's happening. So delegate the planning to the troops. Delegate the planning to the team. Delegate the planning to your subordinate leaders. So they can come up with a plan, and then you get to look at it. And I wrote about this in the book, Extreme Ownership. Then you get to stand back and be the tactical genius. Then you get to stand back and they present the plan to you and you go, hey, that's pretty good. Here's 2 things that you missed. And those are really important things. And this is what I think actually that's Leif's chapter in Extreme Ownership. He's talking about me and how I would sit there and look at his plan, and I'd be like, hey, Leif, that's a really good plan, but you missed this piece of high ground over here. And he'd be like, what's Jocko a tactical genius? How does he know this? It's because I wasn't all caught up in it. So delegate the planning to the troops, stand back and be the tactical genius. That's number 1. Number 2, equally important, but it's the opposite. If you are part of that mob, you have to reach out and get an outside opinion, right? You have to make the effort to say, hey, can you come take a look at this and tell me if this makes sense or not? Because I'm part of this mob over here and my thinking might be corrupted by the mob, which is entirely possible. So you got to ask for that input, and then you actually have to listen to it. Because a lot of times people don't like to listen to anybody else, especially when you've got a mob of 7 people on your team that are all like, oh, this is going to be the best thing ever. And then one outside opinion says, well, that's not going to work too well because of this. And you go, you don't know what you're talking about. So you got to just be careful of that. When you're part of the mob, you listen to the mob. You're part of the mob. So be careful about that. You're a little bit crazy. When you're in a leadership position, don't be part of the mob.
Yeah.
That's what I got for today.
Yeah, that mob thing is real. And I've told you this before where when I was a bouncer, and this is what they kind of teach you in, I guess.
Bouncer Academy?
Bouncer Academy, yeah. Actually, it's like you get it's a security like certification course.
Professor Dalton comes in.
You should. Maybe. It's for your guard card. You get your guard card.
Okay, so it's a legit course.
Yeah.
Who teaches it? Is it a university or is it like a state run or what is it?
Yeah, like I think county maybe. Okay. I don't know who runs it, but you know, yeah. You
so
got
you're kind of a fish.
You need this certification card to work.
Oh, Echo Charles certified bouncer. All right,
literally, yeah. Anyway, it's what they teach you with.
How long is the course? Something tells me it's like 3 hours.
Half hour. It's a crash course.
Is it more than one day?
I think it's one day. I don't know. I forget.
So it's like
because I've taken it multiple times, so I forget if it was more
concealed carry class, which is like a day.
I would compare it to that. Right. Yes.
Okay.
So
all right. So you're in this doctorate.
What
level
they teach you, one of the many things they teach you is actually the stuff in there is I still remember it pretty much.
Okay.
Like as a citizen, it helps you a lot, even as a normal person.
All right.
So anyway, in a case of emergency, right, like a fire scenario, he's like, hey, they need you. It's actually kind of it's leadership in a way, where not in a way, it straight up is, because they say, hey, in a fire, people's automatic instinct is to go out where they came in. Like there can be an fire exit right here, and I worked in this club where there's 3 levels or whatever, and if they came in the it was called the bitter end. Now it's called the tipsy.
I remember the bitter end.
Yeah, right across the street from Maloney's. But so he said, hey, they need you. Otherwise, it's going to be like panic, and people are all going to rush for that main exit because most of them came in that way. So you have to essentially be the brain of the whole group, the group think. And direct them towards the exit, and you better be loud because it's like they have a mind of their own, kind of a thing. And I was like, that makes sense, because even like imagining myself in the situation, I would go through the main exit too. I wouldn't like look for the escape. Now I would, but it's the same thing.
We should cover the course at some point. What you learned from the guard card.
But they tell you how to do a citizen's arrest. They do like all this stuff. Like there's a lot of like legal stuff where it's like a lot of technical stuff, so you can like maneuver your way through. It's actually pretty clever, I thought.
It's like a warning though, right? Like when you get your CCW and everything's a warning.
Yeah, well,
like if you do this, you're gonna get fined this. You're gonna go to jail for that.
Yeah.
Basically, if you are CCW, meaning you have a concealed carry license, which you and I both have, and you shoot someone, they're like, you're going
get ready.
Get ready. You're getting arrested.
That's essentially it.
Yeah.
It's what did they say? I think you might have said this, or maybe the instructor did, where they said, if you fire if you fire your weapon, just pretend that it has your name, address, social security number, and bank account on that bullet. Just imagine like that. All right.
Yeah, they don't play around.
So buckle up, man. And yeah, they offer all kinds of legal stuff or whatever. It's so they're so sketch about it.
Wait, is this guard card or CCW?
CCW. Where they're like, hey, if anyone sees that on you, get ready. The like cops are gonna come because they don't know, like just because you have that license, you can't just be like, no, I have a license. Like people are gonna see you with a gun and they're gonna get scared.
Oh yeah,
and they're gonna panic.
Yeah, well, there's huge deconfliction to be done too. Because think about it, you're in a shooting situation. And you're in civilian clothes, and you just pull out your gun and start shooting people, even if it's a bad guy, and a cop comes up. What is he thinking?
Yeah, exactly.
You're getting shot.
Oh, yeah.
So it's you got to really think about what you're doing. So a lot of the advice. That is a little excerpt of what we are doing on the Jocko Underground podcast. So if you want to continue to listen, go to jockounderground.com and subscribe. And we're doing this to mitigate our reliance on external platforms so we are not subject to their control. And we're doing it so we can give you more control. more interaction, more direct connections, better communications with us, strengthen this legion of troopers that are in the game with us. So thank you. It's JockoUnderground.com. It costs $8.18 a month. And if you can't afford to support us, we can still support you. Just email assistance@JockoUnderground.com and we'll get you taken care of. Until then, we will see you mobilized underground.